Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's webinar. I'm just going to let the first kind of lot of people trickle in, let everyone get a drink, get comfortable, get ready. Can people just drop in the chat, in the questions box or in the chat that they can hear me? Because this webinar is going to be not so good if you guys can't hear me. So just let me know that I'm coming through loud and clear, and then we can get moving. Great. Thanks for confirming with me, Jennifer, that you can hear me. We're not going to get very far if you can't, right? Okay, cool. Loud and clear. Thank you, Lawrence. Cool. I think we've got quite a few people in here now, so I'll make a start. And like I said, people will trickle in. Hi, everyone. My name is Honor, and I'm a member of Convertri's support staff. You might have seen me if you guys are about in our Facebook group, which I recommend joining. You might have heard my voice if you've ever watched any of my videos on the knowledge base. But to put a face to a name, this is me right here on our website. And yeah, I do customer support, the Facebook group, I write some of the help articles. So I am one of the people that knows quite a lot about Convertri. Today, I'm going to show you a couple of things. The first thing is going to be how to build your first funnel. So that is going to be a page which collects leads connected to a thank you page that delivers your product. And rolled into this, there'll be lots and lots of information on editing, how to set up a form, which is very important, Convertri's capabilities, our elements tray. We're going to touch on a lot of different things as we go on. Then we're going to do some tips and tricks, which is my favorite part of the webinar because I think that it really gets you moving quickly with Convertri. So that is going to show you guys all about how to use containment, which might sound scary, but it's very easy. How to make the most of mobile, how to make the most of our many templates. The last thing I want to do is show you guys our feature releases for this week. So we do these every week, every Tuesday. We release something new and shiny, and this week it was all about cookie consent, which is pretty important to a lot of people. So I'm sure that people want to hang around, and I'll just do a quick whiz of that. Throughout the webinar, if I do something and you think, gosh, what did Honor do there? Please just put a question in the question chat and say, hey, Honor, will you do that again? Why are you doing that? Why does it look like that? Throw it in. If you have a question that's more specific, so not about what I'm doing, it's about domains or split testing or how do I add this and how do I add that, please leave that till the end so that we can just get through the flow of the webinar, right? And we're not constantly interrupting ourselves. I will leave as much time at the end for questions. There's no cutoff, there's no limit to the questions. So everyone will get their questions answered. So please, hold off on any general kind of random questions, but specifically what I'm doing, please drop something in the chat and say, whoa, what just happened? Cool. So that's what I'm doing today. Before I get started, how does everyone on this webinar feel about Convertri on a scale of 1 to 10? So I'm a 10. I feel pretty confident with Convertri, otherwise I wouldn't be here today. But a 1 would be I've never even logged in to Convertri. So, we get lots of different levels at the webinar. We get people who use Convertri who just want to see how we think you should use it. We get people who've never used it. So yeah, from a scale of 1 to 10, let's see where we're all at, the team kind of consensus. Cool, we've got a good spread rolling in actually, guys. We've got our highest is a 7, we've got a 1, we've got a 10. Oh, I've got some competition for the 10. I'm not the only 10 in the webinar today. Yeah, we've got some people who've just logged in, like Lawrence, who said he must have already been there before, but he doesn't remember. Well, hopefully this will jog your memory, but you're not the only one in here, Lawrence. So we've actually got a really good spread of people here, guys. So, if you're very knowledgeable and you want to add something, please do. This is kind of an open forum, just to get people involved. Convertri is a community. That's what our Facebook group is about. So let's just have some fun and see where this goes. So I will be creating a page, like I said, which will collect leads. It will link up to a form, an autoresponder of my choice, and then I will create a thank you page to deliver a product. I'm going to create a page that looks like this. This is the example page. It's not going to be identical because I'm making it from scratch, but it's going to be pretty close to this. And what this is kind of your standard landing page. It's got what my guide is, my 7 top tips. It's got a box for my prospects to enter their names and their emails, and a button that will then take me to the thank you page. I've got privacy policy and some other stuff. So we are going to build this. So the first thing I'm going to do is get inside my funnel, which I am in today. I just created a completely blank funnel, and then this page I will get to a little later on. And so I need to create my landing page. So I'm going to click on New Page. All of the templates will start loading and popping up, and Convertri has a lot of templates, and I'd recommend, if you're new to us, having a good old scroll through, because we release new templates every week. This week was vet surgery, and there's very likely going to be something that either exactly fits your need or something that, with a little bit of tweaking, has everything you need without you needing to go from scratch. But for the sake of today, I'm going to go from scratch, because if we can build off a completely blank page, you guys are going to be template whizzes. Do you know what I mean? So rather than choosing one of these lovely templates, I'm going to click Create a Page from Scratch. I'm just going to call it something memorable. This, when I publish, will be the name that's up here. It can be edited later on, but just bear in mind, when you're naming it, that your prospects will be able to see it in the tab, but you will be able to rename it. So I've pressed OK and I've created that, and it's now inside my funnel. So let's get building this page. So I'm going to click over the page card, which is what this is, and click Edit Page and go in. And what I'm going to be faced with is a completely blank page ready for us to play with. So this is the daunting bit. This is the bit where there's nothing on my page and I have to think, gosh, where do I start? Well, I'm going to start from the ground up, and I'm going to put the background image on first. On this demo page here, everything sat on top of this image. It makes the most sense to put it at the back, build it first, and then not think about it again. So I'm going to add an image to my page. To do this, I'm going to go to the elements tray, where we'll be getting all of our elements for today, and I'm going to go over image. Up will pop up this, and I've got lots of images in my library. You guys would expect this. So this is all images that before I have either dragged from my desktop straight in, or I've clicked upload and sorted through my folders to look at. So I'm also going to have a look at this up here, because this is a really cool integration we have for you guys, which is Pixabay, which is a free image service. And you can go on Pixabay's website, pixabay.com, and you can search in these images, download them, and then upload them. But we actually have a direct connection to Pixabay, which means you can use their images directly on your page without having to deal with all the downloading and the uploading, right? It's that pain-free. So what image shall I add, guys? Can someone give me a suggestion of something to type into Pixabay? Before, I've had people ask me for biscuits or cookies. So yeah, just give me some ideas for what kind of thing you guys want me to put in. Oh, we've got quite a few. We've got some chatty people, guys, today. Thanks for coming. It's nice to have some voice. We've got lots of people giving suggestions. So I've got one from Lawrence, which is travel, and I've got one from Jennifer, which is bicycle. I've also got a mosquito. So, mosquito, older people. You guys have gone for a real spread today. I've done a couple of these before, so I think I'm going to do bicycle, because I actually don't know what comes up if we type in bicycle. Cool. So I've typed in bicycle into Pixabay, and it's given me a couple of different options. I mean, we've got like an ET thing going on here, so we've got a lot going on. And imagine if this was your page and you were looking for something. You've got lots of different styles, and all sorts here. So lots of different images to add. If I click on this one, I quite like the look of this, and I really like the suggestion. Thank you, Jennifer, of bicycle. But I'm actually not going to use that today, and that is for one little reason, and that is this resolution right here. The resolution for this image is the highest that Pixabay will go. Pretty much all Pixabay images will be this high resolution, so 1920 by 1280. And don't get me wrong, that's pretty good. That kind of resolution is not going to be noticeable on your page as like grainy or anything like that. But I know that Convertri is really fast loading, but also can really handle a higher image speed and still maintain its fast load. So as much as I love this image, I'm actually going to go with an image of my own, which is this one. And I'm going to do this because that resolution, guys, is so much bigger than that 1200 and 1900, right? But it's still going to completely load great. So thanks for the suggestion, Jennifer, but I'm going to stick with my image just for today. So once I've selected this from my folder, I'm going to click select, and the element will add itself to the page. So I'm pretty happy this is on my page, but a background image needs to cover the whole of the background of my page. So Convertri is freeform, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, so you can just grab the corners to do the drag handles here. So I can resize this manually, but a lot of the time we're all human and we make human error, and there'll be a little bit of gap at the side where different screens, all sorts of things where I might be resizing on a smaller screen, someone reviews on a bigger screen, and I've got weird white gaps on the side of my web page. I am going to overcome this by using our full width button on this element, which is just going to fit this element to both the left and the right hand corners of the screen. So to do this, I'm going to click on the element and then I'm going to click full width up here. So this is our quick actions toolbar. We'll be touching on it quite a lot throughout the webinar, so you'll be pretty familiar with a lot of these by the end. But this one is going to be full width. So if I click on it, my image is now fitted perfectly to the edges of my screen on the left and the right. And now I can just pull it up and then pull it down so it shows as much as I want. So I'll just get it to show, yeah, that's enough of my image that I want to show you guys. So that is it. And then the page will just end where the final element is, right? So don't worry about all this white space down here. That's just for you guys to add. But if not, the page will end at the final element. Cool. So my backing image is on and I'm ready to start building those other elements on top. Going back to my demo page and having a look at what I need, I've got this header and this footer here. So I'm going to add some elements to create these. The easiest thing to do here is just to add a panel, which is a square block, but we will touch on panels a lot throughout this webinar because they act as containers, they're versatile, they can be reshaped. But for the sake of this, adding a panel is really simple because it's just simply a square. So go to the elements tray and click panel, and one will appear on your page. I'm going to full width this again because I want it to sit nice and comfortably on top, and I'm going to drag it to the top. It's pretty big as a header there, and I'm not really going to put anything in the header. It's more of a kind of design thing to look professional, so I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. I'm happy with that size now, and it's sat on top, but there's one thing I'm not happy with, and that is the colour. This grey is fine, and it would fit in a lot of colour schemes, but if you notice here, I've got this kind of sandier yellow, and I want to change the colour of my panel to be that sandier yellow. To do this, click on the element. You'll know that you've selected that element because it will have the little blue outlines around it. So if I was selecting the image, then the blue outlines would be around the image, but I've selected the panel, so they're around them. With this selected, click background, and you will see this here, just underneath the background fill header. This will always be the same color as the element. So it will automatically be this gray, but if we change the color, then this will be the new color. Click on it and our color picker will open. One of the great things about our color picker is that it is live. It changes live. So if I click on red, it changes red, and if I drag it around, it shows the tone live. So I'm not much of a designer myself, guys. I do my very best, but being able to see the color change means that I don't have to guess what it looks like on my page, and I don't have that kind of design forethought, you know. I'm focused on other things, so I can just match it right up. I was going for a sandier color, so I'm just going to drag this up to about here, so I'm getting the yellow tones. Then I'm going to try and find kind of my exact tone. I don't always find it exactly, but I quite like that one. It's a bit more mustardy than I normally go, but I'm quite a fan. So as I'm changing this, you will see that this number changes here. This is the color's RGB value. This is really useful because it is the exact shade that I currently have inside my element. If I decided I loved this color and it was going to be my branding color for all the elements on all my pages, all I would need to do is either highlight it and copy and paste it, or write it down on a post-it note, for instance, and then when you reopen the color picker on the element you want to change, just type it in because these can be changed manually. So these are individual, and it's a great way of keeping track of your colors. When you're happy that you've got your right color, and you're also happy that you've noted the RGB value if you need to, click select. This has now kept the color, and it's looking pretty good on my page. So my header's all done, and now I need to move on to making my footer, right? Well, my footer's kind of identical to my header. They just sandwich the page and round it off. Lawrence has actually just asked me a very good question about this, which is, can you make this transparent? I actually come on to this in a second, Lawrence, but I'll just show you quickly. If I open that color picker back up, guys, where I was changing on the left-hand side, this right-hand side is about transparency. So this is color, this is transparency. So if I pull this down, Lawrence, it will go different degrees of transparent, all the way up to a block and all the way down to transparency. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that again later, because I have a different element I want to do that too. But yes, you can, and then you could put color text on top. Exactly. You're welcome, Lawrence. That was a very, very good question. So good that I will touch on it later. So like I was saying, I have this header and now I have to create a footer that looks identical. And I'm going to have to copy across that RGB value and make sure that it's kind of a similar width. Well, actually, there's an easier way, and that is to simply clone this element so that I have two of them and then just pop it at the bottom. It saves me all the guesswork. A lot of this webinar, guys, is going to be about saving you time and just reducing that human error that we all make so your pages look as professional as possible. And that is one of these things. So with the element clicked again with the blue snap lines, just go to our quick actions toolbar and click clone. If I now drag this down, I have two of this element here, and I can just put it on the bottom as my footer. So those are now nicely sandwiched at the top of my page, and I know for a fact that they are exactly the same size, exactly the same color, so I don't even have to worry about it. Cool, so those are looking pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with them. So I'm going to get onto the main bit of this page, which is building that box here where I collect my prospects information, which I'm sure is what lots of you guys have come for. So again, the box that I have here is just made using a panel, which I'll talk about the transparency and the corners and everything. So I'm just going to go to my elements tray and click panel. This can be resized at any time, but I'm just going to kind of guess. I've done this webinar a few times, so I know how big roughly this needs to be to contain all of my necessary elements. Now I'm just going to collect all of the elements that I want to be inside here, because then we can get on with things like design, text styles, and making sure they're all in the right order. But the easiest way to do that is by getting everything on the page first. So I need a couple of things. I need a text box with my header, a text box with my middle text. I've got a little text box here, little text box here, and the all important boxes for the information. So I'm going to add a text box by just clicking on this text element in the text tray. And I'm going to pop it in here. And then I'm just going to start putting in my text. So you guys will have to bear with me while I type this out, but it's a good time if anyone has any questions about anything I've done so far. And you will also have to excuse my poor spelling. So that's my first text element. I'm going to pop another one on the page, which has my my sales spiel about what I'm selling. I'm not overwhelming my my prospects, but I want to entice them, or I want them to give me their email address basically, and I'm giving away a good product, so I need to sell it properly. I have a question from Spencer. Hello, Spencer. What about centering elements, inside elements, and on page? That is a really, really good question, Spencer, and it's something that I am going to touch on. So I'm going to add all of these to the page. I'm going to change the default text styles, and then I will get to all about element alignment and how to make sure it's perfect and not have to do it yourself. So I will get onto that, and when I do, I will shout your name again in case you're not too focused at that point. So I am about to get onto that, and I will show you both. You've got your classic text center here like you would in Word, and then I'll show you main centering in a second. Cool, where am I at with my spiel? You are very welcome, Spencer. I will answer your question better very, very soon. Cool, that's all typed out now. Thank you for bearing with me, guys. That will be the most typing I do all webinar. So again, I think I have another element here. I'm just going to make this a bit wider. I didn't make the text element very big when I started typing. I've got one more text here which says enter your details below. So I just need to do one of those. Just want to make it as clear as possible for my prospect. This is what you need to do, then you'll get your guide, because clarity is never going to mess with you on one of these things. The final little thing that I'm going to add that you may have noticed is just a little message about spam. This is not necessary. Like, the only things that are really necessary on this page will be the email input box and the submit button. The rest of it is just kind of design and thrill, right? But this just is very reassuring, because nowadays people are more skeptical about giving you their email address. You know, we've all received emails from spammers that have been really annoying, and no one wants to give their email address away if they think that you're going to spam them. So just a little reassuring message makes you seem a lot more professional, and like you're only going to contact them, which is true. You're only going to contact them about what you said you would, right? They're not going to suddenly have 25 emails a day from someone. So just that little message, I find it reassuring, so I add it, and then other people say that they also like to add it to their pages. So all the text is here. I'll come to adding the form elements in just a bit. But as you can see, this doesn't look like a heading, and I'm not totally sold on these fonts. These are automatic fonts, they're very good. But what if I wanted to change all these, right? So now I'm going to go in and edit all of these text boxes. So I could do this one by one, kind of like with recreating, you know, my panel element. I could do it and I could paste across the RGB value, but we actually have something in Convertri called default text styles. Default text styles for a page, basically, in a minute, I will tell Convertri, this is the font I like, this is the size I like it to be bold, I don't like it to be bold, all of this good stuff. And then when a text element is added to a page, it'll automatically fit in with that. Any text that's already on the page will change to fit the style. So this means that you can open a page, you can pick all your fonts and everything, and then you don't ever have to think about highlighting the text again and thinking, is that one a size 16? Is the other one a size 14? It'll all be automatically uniform across. And then if you change your mind, rather than changing them one by one, you can just change the default text styles at the top. So to do this, go to Page in the top-hand toolbar and go to Default Text Styles. You have a couple different headings here. So you have your paragraph text, your normal text, what you want it to look like. For your heading, what will you want that to look like? If you want a second heading, because you might have a lot of text on your page with different styles. And then also how you want, just with hyperlinks, it's just whether you want it to be a different color. So that is when there is a link on a text element. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to make some changes, and if you are eagle-eyed and you watch this little text box at the bottom, you will see it change to fit in with what I edit it for. So I have a favorite font inside Convertri, which is Lato. I'm happy for my text to say black actually, and just I don't need it to be bold or anything. That is fine with me. The size is also actually pretty good. I'm going to up the line spacing so it's nice and easy to read. I'm not going to center or anything like that. And I am actually going to change my default font scaling on mobile. So what this is when you look at something on a mobile, normally a web page will have been adjusted for your mobile screen. It will be showing a bigger text because it's a smaller screen. If it was the same size, how would it do it? So Lawrence has just said that he doesn't have Lato. So Lato is a web font that I have added through Google Fonts. So I'll just click off here and just show you fonts real quick. So if you go to fonts in the top-hand toolbar, you'll have all the available fonts inside Convertri. You will have Google Fonts where you can type and find stuff like Lato and add them by clicking import, or you can upload your own fonts, which was a recent custom font mode we have. So you can just get a font file off the internet and upload it. So you'll find it in here, Lawrence, by going to fonts and then font manager, typing in Lato, and I've already got it. So it's got a red tick and you can click import. So I will go back to my default text styles. So I upped all of this, but I didn't change my default text styling. Lawrence has got Lato now. Good, cool. So yeah, so as I was saying, you need to up the sizing for stuff on mobile, because if it remains the same size, it'll be itty bitty and no one will be able to read it. And we're entering into this mobile world, right? Convertri lets you see what your page looks like on mobile. But the easiest thing to do is just to up it. And we automatically up the font scaling by 150%. So if I do maths well enough, if something was a size 8 in desktop, it would be a size 12 in mobile, and so on. I think that that's good maths from me. But I actually don't need it to be this big in my case. For my paragraph text, I'm going to bring it down to about 125%. How you do that is kind of, in my opinion, trial and error. You change it, you publish your page, have a look at it on your mobile and go, oh, that text is a bit big. Oh, that text is a bit small. So this is just what I've got after trial and error. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to change the default text styles for my headings, because as you saw on my demo page, I had a bigger heading. One of the things I like to do for this is I like to have a different font, which I think complements. So Noto Sans, web fonts again. So this is another one like how I got Lato that I showed Lawrence by getting in the Google fonts. Automatically being bold is great, but a font size 36 is way too big for me for this. So I'm going to kind of take this down to a 24. There we go. Font scaling, again, I'm going to change to 140. I really want it to pop because that's the main thing I'm selling. So if that's the only thing they see on mobile is what the guide is, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to click done. And these are now all Lato. And I'm pretty happy with them. But I actually need to tell Convertri, hey, this is my title. It assumes every single text box I put on my page is paragraph text, because 9 times out of 10 it will be right. But in this case, this is a heading text. So I've highlighted the text, just clicking in the text box and highlighting, kind of like if you're in Word. Go to more, and you can see this is currently set to P for paragraph. But if I change it to H1 and then I click off, we now close it. We now have title text. I'm just going to drag this because they've bunched up. There we go. So now I have all the text on the page, and as I said earlier on, I am going to show you guys the alignment of this, so don't worry if this looks a little bit messy, just about getting everything on the page, and soon I will make it look beautiful. So the last things that I need to add are my form elements. To do this, just when you go in the elements tray where we've got text and image, go to form elements, and you can add lots of different things on a form. Some people's forms collect, all different types of information, phone numbers, addresses, etc., etc. I'm just giving away a free guide, so I just want their name and their email address. So I'm going to click first name, put that there, click email, and I need a submit button. As I said before, guys, if you only add 2 things to a whole page, it would be this email box and this submit button. So these are all important. I just like to collect a name, because then further along the line in their email address, when I email them to say, hey, thanks for taking my guide, are you interested in this? I'm going to put their name, personalize it, catch their attention. That's just me and how I sell. So you may notice, if you're really, really eagle-eyed, because I think this is quite a hard spot, these don't comply to the default text styles. That's because you can't really set them to paragraph or heading. They are boxes, and so the text in them needs editing itself individually. To do this, go to element properties when you've got this selected with the little blue lines. Go to input properties, and you'll kind of see the same editing layout that we had before. So I'm going to change these to Lato. And I'm pretty happy with the size. I just want it to be Lato. And then for my submit button, when I go to button settings, I'm going to change a few things. I'm going to change the text. So I'm giving away a free guide, as I said, and I think this is a bit more appealing than the word submit. I'm just going to change the text of the label. I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to make it the same text as the heading, because I think that kind of creates like a link between the two. Maybe I'm crazy, but I quite like that. And I think it could be a bit bigger as well. So we're at 16 currently, put it at an 18. So I've kind of messed around and got these exactly how I wanted them. And I'm feeling pretty good, actually. They are all how I want them to look, but as I've said, they're not looking so well distributed. So we're going to get on to how to center align things for when we had the question earlier about that. So this panel is providing a box, a clear space where my elements are, but it's actually also acting as a container. I will talk so much about containers in the editor tips and tricks, because once you learn to use them, they really speed up your Convertri game. You can tell that these are all contained inside because when I click just on the blue, somewhere in the panel, I've got little pink lines around all of these elements. They are inside, they are contained, and so consequently, I can choose containment alignment, and that way I can affect all of these at once without having to kind of, I could select them all individually by clicking on them and holding down Shift, but this is so much easier. So I'm going to click on that panel, and then I'm going to go to my alignment tools, which is up here. So with it clicked, I'm just going to go to this little arrow next to these two. And you'll see that I am in container mode. So I know that I've definitely clicked the container. Convertri has said, hey, you've got lots of elements inside a container. What do you want to do with them? So I think the first thing I'm going to do is center align. I was asked a question about center aligning. There it is. So I have now center aligned these, and that's already looking so much better. If you wanted to and you also centered your text, then it would be bang bang, in the middle. But I just want to give these elements a bit more room. So I'm just going to kind of drag them down. And then I want these ones to be equally spaced out. So I'm happy that this is in the middle. I'm happy where this text is. This span text is good, but I want these to be distributed a bit better. Like, I think that gap is bigger than that gap, but I'm only human. I'm trying to see it and I can't. So I'm going to hold down Shift and select these elements. So I've got the 4 blue snap lines around them. Go back to the arrow I went to before, and I'm going to distribute these vertically. So that one just tucked up, and now I know for a fact that these are all equally spaced apart. So now everyone can see all of the space inside my box. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm happy with that. How you edit and all of your alignment is totally up to you, but these alignment tools up here, they are going to provide a lot more stuff for you. They'll be a lot more easier than trying to guess where stuff goes, right? So have a fiddle around with these if you have some time and see what works for you. But center align is the one I had the question about before. We could align it all to the page center, etc. But I'm happy now with the way that that is looking. So I'm actually going to move on to just editing how this backing panel looks. I don't think it looks terrible by any means, but it doesn't look like it did on this demo page. This looks a lot more kind of shiny and like it's there on purpose. Mine looks a bit like I just put a square behind it, basically. So there's 2 things I'm going to do. I'm going to up the opacity, which was my question from earlier about making something transparent, and I am going to create little borders around the edge. So with the panel selected, I'm going to go to Element Properties and Background, go to Background Fill with the color picker like before, and I'm going to use this right hand to make this a bit more opaque. So I'll see I want you to still be able to read my text, but I want it to fade in a bit more with the background. So about here is where I like it. That's about as opaque as I'm willing to go. You'll see that our opacity has an RGBA value. This is exactly the same principle as the RGB value. I could copy and paste this into the box and it would make any element I did that with exactly the same opacity as this one here. So again, if you wanted to make a note of that, put it on a post-it, copy and paste it somewhere else. That is the RGBA value. So I'm going to click select and I'm happy with that. But like I said, the other thing I want to do is also to change the border. I want these little rounded corners that I had on my demo page. So you can change the border radiuses individually. So the top left corner, the top right corner, I could make this one 50, which is quite big, just on its own. But for the sake of today, I want all 4 to match. So I'm just going to toggle on just one unified border radius. And I normally go for about a 25. So you can see again, that's changed live. And I'm pretty happy with that. That's normally what I go for. And if I click out of this and click off to the footer, you'll be able to see it a bit better. That is what that's looking like. And I am really, really liking that. So Spencer has asked some really good questions about how all of this is going to look on a mobile view. So we have, I will show you in a bit more detail in a second, and especially about how to make the most of mobilization with these panels, Spencer. You're onto the right track with using mobiles to tell Convertri how to make the mobile view. But if we go to mobile, this is what it looks like right now. So Convertri stacked these as best it can. Keeping panels, so keeping this panel behind here has made sure that these have grouped, and I will touch more about that in the tips and tricks and show you exactly how that works, when it would work, when it wouldn't work, etc. So good practice would be, if you want to keep elements together in the mobile view, to place an opaque panel behind them. What was the rest of your question? So yeah, so essentially for the mobile view, the way I like to think of it with Convertri is Convertri reads it like a book. You'll probably hear me say that again. So Convertri just scans across the lines and then it stacks everything on top. So it reads lines, so it says this element, then this element, this element. If it does this incorrectly, putting a panel around these will make it read them as one element and keep them together. So you're totally onto the right track there, with panel Spencer. They do make mobilization much easier, and it does just transfer left to right in a row down like reading a book. So that's what it looked on mobile view. I'll show you guys just in a second some checks on that when I do my thank you page. But there's one final thing I need on this page before I can move on to building my thank you page, and that is that I want to add a privacy policy. That's all right, Spencer. I think it makes sense too when someone tells you that's how Convertri reads it, and it is useful. So yeah, line by line, and I'll touch more on that later. So yeah, the final thing that I want is a privacy policy. More and more people are adding these to their pages. More and more people are requiring that you add these to your pages. So I like to add one to mine. To do that, I'm just going to get a text element and put it in my footer. And I'm going to type privacy policy. I have a privacy policy that I'm just going to use Convertri's because I am at Convertri. But obviously you guys will need to have your own privacy policy page. If anyone's interested, we do have a kind of like a mock-up, a privacy policy template that we can send you at support@convertri.com if you email us. But this is kind of very basic, and everyone has to do their own due diligence with privacy policy, unfortunately. I'm trained in Convertri, I'm not trained in law, so I can't actually give you guys legal advice. So this privacy policy, I'm going to center the text, and I'm just going to also center the element to the middle of the page, like so. It's now aligned to page center. Cool. I could put the link into my privacy policy here, but what I'm going to do is a hyperlink. So everyone's familiar with a hyperlink. When this is clicked, it will open up my privacy policy. So to create a hyperlink, I'm going to highlight the text that I want to hyperlink, because you might have a larger chunk of text like this and only want to hyperlink one word. So highlight the part you want to hyperlink and go to this chain link little sign up here. A pop-up will appear and it will say, hey, what link do you want? So this is the point where you would put in your privacy policy page that you have built. Like I said, I'm just going to use Convertri's. It would be good practice if you could to copy and paste this just to reduce that human error. But I've typed that enough times, I do know it off by heart most definitely. We don't need to worry about this URL parameters for our privacy policy, but I am going to toggle on open in a new tab. This is because people are very easily distracted. We're all easily distracted as human beings. If I don't toggle this on, this link is going to replace the page it's currently on. So in order for my user to get back to my form page, they'd have to click the back button. If I toggle this on, my privacy policy opens in a new tab. So then they can read it at their own time and say, yeah, all right, I think their privacy policy is up to scratch. I'm willing to give them my email address and go back. People are so easily distracted that they will Google something on your privacy policy page, and the next thing you know, they didn't sign up. So I would always recommend to have this. For links that aren't entirely relevant to your sales, just toggle on open in a new tab, and then they can have as many tabs as they want, read it in their own time, and I still get their email address. So once you're happy with this, click save. You'll see that this is underlined, which kind of proves that it has been hyperlinked, and it's kind of an international sign that a page, something is hyperlinked if it's underlined. So Sandeep has asked a really good question. Hi Sandeep, I haven't seen you in the chat yet. What if I wanted to fix that top yellow bar above the banner? In the case of a top menu bar at the top, so that it stayed even when I scrolled down. So this is totally possible. What that would mean is I would have maybe some menu options here. My home page, about me, services, book now, blah, blah, blah. And when I scrolled, the yellow would hover, right? That's what we're looking for. This would be done with layers. So I'm not going to touch on layers too much in the webinar. That's when you start to get to kind of cool editing like this. But what you would do is go to layers in the top hand toolbar and add a layer. I will show you a bit more on how to do that at the end, but what you would do is you would place this element exactly the same way, but it would be on a layer. Then it would say editing layer 1 or whatever. Then there's just an option to make your layer unscrollable. That means you can't scroll away from it. So then when I scrolled, it would hover constantly all the time. So this is completely possible. It'd be done during layers. The best way to find out about this, Sandeep, rather than listening to me whittle on about it in a slightly confusing way, would be to go to help.convertri.com. And if you type in sticky layer, that's what you want. You want it to stick. This how-to here. I will drop it in the chat to eliminate you having to guess. So I've sent that how-to in the chat now, and that will just walk you through how to make any element sticky, but in this case, that would be my top toolbar. Cool. So my page is looking pretty good. You're very welcome, Sandeep. My page is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know about you guys. So Naga's asked the same question, how to make a fixed header at the top. So this header is fixed and it will stay there. That sticky layer how-to will cover that. So how to make it hover, even if you scroll away, it will still be at that top. That link I've just put in the chat will cover that. It's some people call it a fixed header. Sticky is kind of the term we use at Convertri. Having a sticky layer or a sticky video means it sticks. You can't move away from it. So that how-to will cover that for you, Naga. Cool. So before I move on and make my thank you page, I'm just going to check that this looks good in mobile, which I kind of touched on earlier with you guys. And actually, Convertri's done a pretty good job of putting this all together. The mobile page, builder won't be perfect, but I'll show you how to make the most of it later. But it does do a good job in a lot of cases, especially when you use those panels for containment. You're making its job a lot easier. I can completely edit this mobile view and it wouldn't affect the desktop. So if I move around elements on this, it wouldn't affect the desktop. If I edited text, for instance, then it affects both. But if I decided that this panel would actually be better here, don't know why I would, but we're in a hypothetical, guys. If I moved it and then I go back to desktop, you'll see nothing's changed here. And then, so I could move around lots of different elements here and say, I want this here and I want everything moved down, blah, blah, blah. And then I might look at it and go, I actually like the way Convertri did it. Or I want to go back to kind of that base to build around. Well, all you need to do to go to how Convertri would build the page is this little remobilize button up here. And you're basically saying to Convertri, oh, how would you put this together? You'll put the elements how you would, and then you can mess around with them however you want. So if I click remobilize and remobilize all, everything will go back to the top. My desktop's completely unharmed, and yeah, Convertri was probably right. My page was probably better the first time. So Simona joined us a bit late and she actually didn't see before I selected the main video. So what I will do, Simona, is I can go through this at the end if you want, but there will be a recording. I don't know, this is a good PSA for everyone on the webinar today, that there will be a recording of this available on this exact webinar. I will do my best to get it up tonight, unless something happens that's crazy. It will be up on YouTube tonight. If you want a recording of it, just email support@convertri.com. I'll put that in the chat for you now. And I'm working the help desk for quite a while after the webinar this evening. So if you email and say, hey, can I get a copy of tonight's webinar? I will send you the link. So then you can go through it on your own time and I don't have to rush through it for you. So there will be a recording available. Don't worry, no one will have missed anything. Cool. So you guys, I think I'm done. Then it looks good. You're welcome, Simona. It looks good on desktop, it looks good on mobile. But before I can link up this with an actual autoresponder, I need to have someone to take my prospects to. I need to have a page that says, hey, thanks for giving me your email address. And also, oh, here's that guide I promised you when you signed up. Like, I'm not lying to them, I am giving them a guide. So make sure you have saved your changes, very, very important. And then click X to go back to your funnel. So you'll be able to see this page that I have built here. And now I'm going to build a thank you page, which is great. But I'm sure this is the point where you guys are thinking, I just watched Donna build a whole page. Do I have to watch her build another page? And as much as I like to imagine you guys are totally thrilled with the idea of me doing that again, it could get real repetitive if I keep building pages. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to clone this page. So the same as I cloned my header and my footer, I'm going to clone this page, and then I'm going to make some tweaks. When you're building landing pages and thank you pages, you're probably going to end up with a house style, is how we like to put it. And that house style is your default text styles, your colors, all of that good stuff. Well, I've just set this all up on this page, and if I clone it, then my default text styles will be saved, the images I use will be saved, and I can tweak it how I want without starting from the ground up and hoping that the two look the same. So I'm going to click on the three-dot menu on the page card, and I'm going to click More, and you've got all sorts of options in here, but I'm going to click Clone, and then I'm going to call this Webinar Thank You page because that's what it is. So now I have two of the same page in my funnel with no faff. Easy squeezy. In the corner of these page cards, you will see these arrows, and these arrows are a really, really useful thing to use inside Convertri and a great general practice to always be using them. So they tell Convertri which way your funnel goes. Typically how funnels work is people work through them. And Convertri is great, but it's not a mind reader. It doesn't know which is your thank you page, which is your landing page, unless you tell it. So if you draw an arrow by holding down on it and then holding down there, it tells Convertri, oh hey, when people leave my landing page, they're taken to my thank you page. So this is also a great visual aid. If you guys are building quite a few funnels and you build this one and you think, yeah, I'll come back to it, then later on, you know, oh, those are all my pages connect. So I use them a lot. But later on, this means that Convertri will pre-fill things. It will say, oh, your thank you page, well, you told me this is your thank you page. So I'll show you guys that in a bit more detail. But good practice is if you have two pages that link together, just draw an arrow. Just let Convertri know. So Naga has asked about a code editor panel. So the way Convertri works is it is a free form editor. So you can add custom HTML. So you can add an element with custom HTML in it. You can add custom scripts. So lots of that's like Facebook pixels. And you can add custom CSS, but the actual elements on the page, you can't edit the HTML of our pages, no. So you wouldn't be able to import an entire load of HTML into Convertri and expect it to look right. You need to either build it from the ground up or use HTML elements. So that's how that would work. So I now have my identical thank you page, and I'm going to click edit page, and I'm going to go in and make the necessary changes because I've got all these form elements on the page, but if they've reached this, they've already given me their email address and they're going to think, oh gosh, why are you asking for it again? So looking at it, what are the elements that I do and don't need? I think still having the title is pretty important. It tells them, yeah, I sent you to the right thank you page, but I don't need this. So if you want to get rid of an element, there's two ways. You can either click on it and press like Del or backspace on your keyboard, which is what I'm doing now, or you can click on the element and go to the little dustbin, trash bin, whatever you want to call it. That's our bin, and it will delete selected. So I don't need to tell them to enter their details. They've done it, and I don't need to warn them that I'm not going to spam them. I've already got their email address. So let's hope I don't spam them, eh? I'm happy with the title, and I'm just going to change this text to make it nice and clear that this is a different page, and all they need to do is click below to get your free guide for 7. So I have this button, which is going to be my download button, and I'm just going to tuck up the bottom of this, and then now these are all still inside my panel, so it acts as a container not only for alignment but moving all of the elements at once. So if I drag the panel, they all come with me, and now I have these ready to deliver. So someone will go on my landing page, give me their email address. They'll reach this page and it says click below to get your free guide. And what I want to do on this button is rather than have a submit button like we did before, I want to have a download button. So to change this, click on the button and go to the button settings. All buttons when added to a page are automatically signed up. This is just because this is the thing you're most likely to do with a page. It's most likely to act as a sign up or submit button to sign up to a list. But in this case, I want a different mode. So from the drop down, I'm going to click download. You'll see the options change a little bit because, yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to say your name right here. Evaristo is how I think I say your name. Hi, nice to meet you. Can we host the giveaway PDF on Convertri? Yes, we can. I'm about to do this. There is only one limit to the hosting giveaway on PDFs, and that is that you can't do more than, I believe it is 40 megabytes. Yes. So any file bigger than 40 megabytes you can't host on Convertri, but I don't know if you guys know anything about files. That's a pretty big file. I've never had to host anything bigger than that, and most people find this not to be an issue, so you can host it directly. The way that you do this is once you've set your mode to download, you'll see that it says, oh, what file do you want to give them? So click this little open file button. These are all of my domains inside Convertri, and you store files by domain. This is just, we thought, the easiest way to categorize them. Typically, if lots of pages are under the same domain, they're probably sharing files, so this is just how we do it. Uploading these is exactly the same as uploading an image. You could drag it straight from a desktop in and it would upload, which is what I've done already, or you could click upload and search for all the files on your computer. If you did have a file bigger than 40 megabytes, because some people do sell guides, because giveaway guides tend to be a bit smaller, but some people will do a giveaway, a paid guide that might be really, really high quality, have lots of high quality images and just really boost the file size up. All you would do is use an external file hosting site. So we recommend Amazon S3 for external video and file hosting, just because they're quite cheap. It's Amazon, they're quite dependable. If you want to know more about that, just type in Amazon into help.convertri.com and you'll see a tutorial for setting up S3. I did that video, so you'll have to listen to me talk about that again. But like I said, most of you guys probably won't hit that scenario. Your files will likely be in here. So once you've dragged it on and it's there, you can just click on it and click select. And now your file has been added to the button. So I've hosted it with Convertri. If I did host it with S3, I would just paste the link in here and it would look exactly the same. The only option below for editing here is, do I want to force the download of this file on a click? So currently, if my prospect clicks on it, it opens up the file, but it doesn't download to their computer. This is kind of just personal preference. Like I was saying before, if I was selling something and that person paid for it, chances are they're going to want to download it. They paid for it. I don't want to view it once. I'm going to download it. So just force the download on click. In this scenario, I'm gathering leads with this free guide. So I'm not going to do this because I'm going to give them a chance to read it. And then if they want to, they can download it. You can come off a little bit aggressive by forcing downloads. So this is all personal preference. Don't worry if that looks a bit scary. I'm going to leave it toggled off for now. Cool, my thank you page it was nice and easy to build because it was very similar to my landing page. Just going to check how it looks on mobile. Yeah, pretty happy with that. So I'm actually going to get ready and I'm going to publish this page so I can go back and link it to my front page, and then I'm going to have a working funnel. So it's all about to come together. I'm sure you guys are thinking, when is it going to come together? It will do really soon. So to put this live on the internet, I'm going to click the publish button in the top hand toolbar. This is the domain that my funnel is registered at, and then I have to choose a path. So this will just be the live URL, and as I type, you'll see it forms it here. So I'm going to call mine webinar thank you page. Call whatever you want. You are welcome to publish it to the root domain, so I could not type that in and just click publish, but obviously I've already got a home page here, so then it will tell me, hey, you've already published a page there. And I'll say, oh yeah, fair enough, because two pages can't share the same URL. That's how the internet works. That's how we will find the right sites. So once you're happy with your URL, click publish and give it a second, and you'll see that this switches from not published yet to published view page. So now I can click this, and in a new tab, I can see, I'll get on to what that message is in a minute, guys. I can see my guide. If I click here, it will download my guide. So I have a working thank you page. Well, this is all up on the internet, but my landing page isn't live, so no one can get to it. So it's time to go back and do that. If you go back to the funnel, and now I'll go to edit page in the thank you in the landing page, and I'm going to link this up to my form, and then I'm going to click publish, and then I'll show you guys working through the funnel. So linking up a form inside Convertri means that when someone puts this information in, you are telling them where the information goes. To do this, go to Forms in the top hand toolbar, and you'll see lots of different options will come up. I'm going to use an autoresponder today. That's kind of the most common thing. These are all autoresponders we have by API integration, which means that you can integrate them once and use them lots. We would always recommend, if, for instance, you want to use MailChimp, they will have the option to use an HTML form, but it's better to use our API integration where possible, because when things go wrong, it's much harder to troubleshoot actual HTML than it is an integration. So MailChimp is my autoresponder of choice for today, but you guys might use any of these and it will look pretty similar when you set it up. So inside MailChimp, I have lists, different lists for different things. I like to give the example of a pet shop. I might have a list of people who own dogs that I have email addresses of, and a list of people that I own cats that I have email addresses of. And I like to keep them separate so that I'm not selling people who have cats dog toys, and I'm not selling people who have dogs cat food, because they wouldn't like that. So it lets me keep nice and targeted. In this case, I just have the one list. So I'm going to click on that. And then I will have this kind of scary looking form set up here, but don't worry. You'll see you have fixed fields and just general fields. And the important thing to know here is just that you need to match these up. So there might come a place where you have these and they look like this, where it says this field is an address and its type is, or it doesn't have a type, it's set to none. So when you see this, all you need to do is go to the drop down and find the one that corresponds. These aren't always identical, so in this case it is, but phone number matches up to phone. You guys all have common sense. I think you will work out which goes with which. If you don't link these up, it is the most common reason why we get emails saying, oh, hey, my autoresponder isn't receiving any of my form stuff. And the first thing I always think is, have they done this? Because it's a really easy step to skip over, but if you don't do it, you're not going to get your information. So just make sure that everything matches up here. And when you're sure that it does, I haven't matched birthday up, and this is because I'm not going to collect anyone's birthday on my page, and I'm very sure of that. So I'm not too bothered about it. But if I did want to collect someone's birthday, then I would match this up in the necessary way. So I'm just leaving it for now. Now I'm going to click next, and I will be asked, so when someone submits your form, fancy way, would you like to redirect your prospects? Where do you want them to go? You can have them stay on the page and not redirect, which is fine. You can toggle that on. But I'm giving away a guide. So then I would have lied to them, because the form will submit I have their email address and they didn't get the guide that I promised them. Also, I'm sure we've all been on a page before and you submit it. You expect to see a thank you page when you make a purchase, for instance. You expect to see it. Sign up to something, you expect to see it. It can kind of confuse people and think their form didn't submit. And then they're submitting the form 3 times and they're still a bit confused. Again, we're all easily confused people out here. So we'd recommend building one of these quick thank you pages like I built by just cloning it. You could just put thank you for signing up, publish it, done. Now it's not confusing. That arrow I drew earlier has now come into play because Convertri has guessed, oh, you drew an arrow between this page and another page. It must be your thank you page. And it has autofilled my URL for me. If I had lots of arrows, because I can draw multiple arrows, then I would have these all in a suggestions drop down saying, oh, is it this page? And I would just select one. This is such good practice to do, guys, because as I keep saying, we are all human and humans make mistakes, and all it takes is me missing off that E to suddenly everyone's getting directed to a 404 page and I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? And all I did was miss a letter or misspell something. So an arrow autofilling that just means that it's definitely going to work. Cool, so I have my autoresponder up, I have my form fields configured, and I have my thank you page all linked up, so I can click done. And I know that my form is working because I have a little red tick here. So that is Convertri's way of saying, yep, you set that up, we've got it. The same as if you set a product up on a page and it's done correctly, you get a little red tick and it says, yep, you've done it. So it's just a little visual representation. If you were to open that box and think that you set up a form and not get this, chances are it's not set up properly. So go open it back up again, work through the steps again, and hopefully you're going to get that red tick. Cool. Well, I'm feeling pretty good, and I actually think I have built my first funnel. So I'm going to publish this, give it another URL name, and click publish. And now my page and my thank you page are going to be live and linked up. So I'll give you guys a little visual representation of what it now looks like. So I'll click view page. And do you know what? I did an all right job of recreating this if you ignore maybe a bit of color blindness on my part. So I'm feeling pretty good. So if I type in my name and I put an email, I'll put support's email. And I click here to download. I get my sending form. And I'm at my thank you page, and now I can download. So guys, that is the first part of the webinar done. You have listened to me for an hour, and in that hour, I have fully set up a working funnel. The next part I'm going to move on to is tips and tricks, which is going to be a lot more about mobilization for the questions I had earlier about that. But before I get on to that, does anyone have any questions for me about any part of that? It's cool if not, and it's cool if you suddenly remember one at the end and ask me at the FAQs at the end. I'm chatty throughout, but I'll just give you guys a second while I set up my next page. Am I type? Yes, I am. Cool, so what I'm doing there, guys, is just adding the template that I'm going to use for the next section. And it's looking like I don't have any questions, which I'm going to take as you guys think I'm great and I've answered all the questions. So thank you very much. But yeah, like I said, if anything pops into anyone's mind, pop it in the chat or the questions box. Cool, so the next part I'm going to move on to is editor tips and tricks. I'm using one of our templates today, which is a good one, but it needs a little bit of rejigging for my needs. So I'm going to go in and click edit page. Thank you, Eva for saying I have been great so far. That's feedback we like to hear. It's nice to have a positive group on the webinar today. You guys have been really great so far. So let's cover some editor tips and tricks, right? So here's a template in Convertri. So it's ready made. It's got quite a lot going on, kind of for a coffee shop. You guys will do this a lot inside Convertri, I'm sure, especially when messing around for the first time. You will get a template and then you suddenly have this block where you think, I have this, how on earth am I going to make this fit my needs and not spend hours redesigning it? And then you're going to remember this section with me and you're going to be a whiz. So I've opened this up on my page and I'm quite liking this template. I like these little social media icons down here. I like this kind of little testimonial section. But actually what I don't want is this big old menu section. It's a bit clunky, it's a bit dark. Like I said before, I'm not a design queen by any means, but it just doesn't suit my needs today. And looking at it, it kind of looks like I'm gonna have to delete all of these elements individually, which is kind of time consuming. And also I might miss one and then it shows up my published page and I look sloppy and I lose customers, and I'm not keen on looking sloppy and losing customers, guys. But the way that lots of our templates, almost all of our templates in fact, are built is that each section has a backing panel behind it. So when you select it like this, and this is good practice for building your own pages as well. These backing panels act as that container that I've been showing you for alignment the whole time. So if you go along, so I've got a question from, I'm really scared of butchering you guys' names today on the webinar, so I hope I'm not, because I also have a name that people sometimes do wrong. Is that Beside? Can I please ask how my page is my website? Can you drop some more details about what you're trying to do with your website while I keep going, and then I'll see if I can either show you now or I'll show you at the end. But I'll get your question answered. So just exactly what are you trying to do with your website? Cool. So as I was saying, and I will get to your question, don't worry about it, is that I don't want this whole section. So there's a massive container behind it, and I'm going to use the container to my strength. And that is that if I click the backing panel and I see these pink snap lines, which knows that I've clicked the backing panel, and I click delete or my backspace, they all disappear and I didn't have to delete them one by one. So it's already a big win for Honor. But now I have this big old chunk of white space on my page, And it was relevant before and now it's not relevant. And moving up all of these elements individually is going to be time consuming and I'm going to lose the alignment, and then I may as well just build a page myself from scratch and not used a template. Well, we have a nifty little tool called remove white space. And basically what this does is if I select this and I click this button, it tells these elements, hey, jump to where the next element is, which will be this backing panel here. So if I click on it and then I click remove white space above, it tucks everything up to the top. Now, nothing here had to be moved individually or realigned. It's all done for you, and no one would have even known that I had that menu there. So that is a really good one for you guys. If you make use of containers, then you'll be able to do this in the long run, but all of our templates have them anyway. Then I might decide, oh, you know, I didn't like that menu, but maybe I want to make a little banner here that says, you know, click here to book. But I've actually removed all the space I had to do this. Well, don't worry, there's not an add white space button per se, but there is a little keyboard hack, and that is shift drag. So to do this, click on the element that you want to move and hold down shift, and now drag it. And when I'm doing this, all of the elements underneath are moving, right? So nothing is falling out of alignment, and I can create a bit of space, and I can put in a banner if I want to. And then if I decide I don't want to, I'll just click remove white space again. So that was shift drag, guys, and that is the first little keyboard shortcut that I wish someone had told me about when I first started the job, that I had to find out from one of these webinars, and totally changed how I used Convertri. The next little keyboard shortcut I'm going to use is alt drag. So that was shift drag. This is alt drag. And this is a automatic cloning shortcut. So that clone button is really easy to reach. I'm not saying it's not, but if you want to really clone things at speed, the easiest way to do this would be to hold down alt and then drag the element in question. So I clicked and I held down alt and I dragged. I clicked, I held down alt and I dragged. And now I have an exact duplication of this element, and I can move it around where I want to put it. I might, you might create something that you really like and you want to put it all over the page. Now you don't have to recreate it, and you literally shift dragged it, put it where it was, done, dusted. Now I have these. They're good, but they're actually now completely unaligned. Like this one overlaps with this one more than this one. That one's higher up. So I could rearrange these like this, kind of guess. I can see their X and Y values, I guess, so I could guess, but actually I'm going to use a backing panel to just align these, but so in a way that no one who went on my page would ever know that I did it. So I'm going to click panel, and I'm going to put this panel on the page, and then I'm going to make sure that it covers my elements. At this point, when you start to work with layers like this, it's pretty good practice to go to display in the top hand toolbar and turn on element outlines. This means that even though I've covered these elements, I know that I've got them inside my box because I can see them and I can change it to the right size. It also means that it stops you from having little pesky elements on your page you can't find. If you think, where did that element go? Is it sat behind something? Just turn on element outlines and it will be here like a little square behind. So that's a pretty good way of finding things you lose, which can happen a lot in bigger pages. So now I want this to act as a container for these elements to align them. And in order for it to act as a container, it needs to be behind them where it's currently in front of them. So with the panel selected, I'm going to do send backwards until all 6 of my elements sit on top. Got it. This will now act as a panel and I can move them as a group. I can also align them as a group. So I'm going to go to the alignment settings. I know I'm in container mode like before. I'm going to middle align them. So they're currently tucked in, but they're still kind of overlapping. So how about a bit of justification? Justify it horizontally. And now they're all equally spaced and I didn't have to think about it. I do have this ugly little panel, and all I have to do is go to element properties and background and change this to opaque properly. If I do it properly, there we go. Click select, and now if you went on my publish page, you'd be none the wiser, but I can always now go back to this and click on the panel and decide how I want to distribute these if I want to change it in the future. So elements don't always have to be something that your prospects see. They act as a guide for you and a tool for you to make sure the page works for you. So these little backing panels worked here, but they're actually really, really great for mobilization. So the rest of the page is looking good, and I want to see how it looks in mobile. And it's showing me a couple things. So I'm going to click remobilize, just see how Convertri would have done this. And this is okay, but it's kind of weirdly tucked my text. Where on the desktop it says bread, and then this text, it now says bread, pastry, coffee, and then 3 pieces of text. And pretty sure that's going to read really weird for whoever enters my desktop. So I stressed before, and this is totally possible, that you can just reorder these and it doesn't affect your desktop view in any way. But there's actually a way that I could have avoided this in the first place, so I'd never even have to do this. And that is by going back to desktop and adding panels behind this to act as containers. So I touched on it before, guys, but Convertri will read your page like a book. And so in this scenario, it has gone along and it's gone, yep, that's elements first. Yep, element second. Oh, that big image element, I'm going to display it. Then it's got here and it's gone, oh, yep, display that one, that one, that one, and then the text underneath. Like I said, it's pretty great, but it's not a mind reader and it doesn't really know how design works. But if I add a panel behind here by doing the same as before, adding the panel, resizing, and then sending backwards, what I'm doing when it reads it is it'll hit this and go, this is one whole thing. Oh, this is one whole thing. So I need to do this multiple times. So again, and then send backwards. And finally, one more time. This is something that I'm showing you now, but as you continue to do it, it will become general practice with the way that you build your pages. You won't even think about it. And then when it comes to mobilization, you'll be like, oh, good, it's already done. So it just makes everything pain-free. At this point, you would, go to element properties. And for background, you would make all 3 of these nice and opaque so that no one can see them at all. I'm not going to do it 3 times because I think you guys get how to do that by now. But imagine these 2 are see-through, just to save you time. Now, if I go back to mobile, when I click remobilize all, it has redone this for me. So it's now gone, yeah, all right, you've told me that's a whole group, that's a whole group, and that's a whole group. So this is looking good. I'm going to scroll, let's remobilize this all pretty well. Oh, I've actually hit an issue here. On my desktop view, those are nice and landscape. And they lie across, and I like the way that they are, and I don't think there's a reason they couldn't do that. But again, my mobile view has just read it as that one, that one, that one. Better stack them. So again, I'm going to add a panel, drag it, make sure all my elements are in it, then make sure all my elements are on top of it, like so. And if I go back to mobile, these are now desktop. So if it doesn't do it, just click remobilize, but in this situation, it's already done it. You didn't even need to click a button, and they're now landscape. There's one thing to note with this though, guys, and it's the one limit I'm going to tell you to this beautiful hack, and that is that this only works for mobilization up to 300 pixels. So if I go to element properties and positioning, you will see that my width here is 240. It's 240 pixels across by 74 pixels high. If I change this to 320, which is about this high, and I go back to mobile, they've stacked again because Convertri's basically said, do you know how wide a phone is? I can't make it be that wide. So, and it's restacked them. So if it's not working, that's just because this element is too big. Mobilization will only work up to 300 pixels. Cool, well that actually brings me to my end of my tips and tricks, guys, and we're actually nearly at the end of the webinar. The final thing I'm going to show you is one of the features that we released this week, and while I'm doing this, feel free to get your questions ready, and that is general questions. I'm opening the floor up. What do I do? How do I do it? Can you do this? So, the big feature that we released this week was cookie consent. I'm sure you guys have all been on a page and it said, hey, do you accept our cookies? Well, this week we created a feature that means that you can add this to your Convertri pages. So if you were to do this, you would go to your account dashboard and go to domains in the left-hand menu, and you would add this for a whole domain. So you would click more, cookie consent, and you can see I've already turned the cookie consent on. I was very excited by this feature. This is just a pop-up then that will come across on all your pages that says, will you accept me, with a little photo of a cookie, And you can also block the cookies that we run for analytics reasons until we take consent. So this is just ensuring you guys are GDPR compliant. It was something we really asked for. We're really asked for by people, which is a big thing Convertri with our features, is that lots of the features are built because you guys asked for them. There is no point us building something if you guys don't want it. So I would really recommend taking a look at when we send our weekly emails, we have a little feature voting link on, what's the next big thing you guys want. If 40 people tell us, hey, I really want this functionality, we're going to build it where possible being stressed. Because it's a product for you guys. We're not building it for ourselves randomly. So something else that we built this week was all about being able to show and hide whole groups of elements, because that was something that people asked for. So if you want more information on our feature releases every week, you should get a weekly email from us. But the other place is in our Facebook group, which is the Convertri Clubhouse. Just ask to join. I'm one of the admins. I'll accept you. And then you'll see we have our weekly releases. It's a really great place to ask questions, because sure, you can email me at support@convertri.com, but we've actually got loads of really knowledgeable people in our Facebook group who will help you out themselves, or say, hey, I actually did that. Here's my page. Take a look at how I did it. It's a great place to say, has anyone been able to build this, or about HTML, anything? Join the Facebook group is basically the end of my spiel on that. Cool, so that brings me to the end of everything I need to do, but I can see I've got a couple questions here. If anyone does have any other questions, this is the time to post it, otherwise you won't get it answered. Or you will, because you can just email me at support@convertri.com and I will answer it for you. So we've got a question from, I'm still saying your name wrong, 100%, Beside. I need to link Convertri with my subdomain. I have built my landing page with Convertri and I find it difficult to link together. So I'm going to have to do some guesswork here and guess that your subdomain is elsewhere and not inside Convertri. So you can there's lots of different ways with domains. These are all my domains I have, for instance. Yeah, so you've said yes, cool. So your subdomain isn't with us. So there are different ways of doing this. I'll probably tell you to email me, just because I can then actually send you help articles rather than tell you. But the long and short of this would be that you have a page inside Convertri and you have a couple options. One, you can host it on one of our .convertri subdomains. So the email address, I posted it in the chat earlier. I'll post it again in case it disappears. It's support@convertri.com. So send me an email here, and I will definitely send you some links over and just say, hey, it's me from the webinar, because I'll be able to send you to the right place, basically. But you can export HTML and host it elsewhere. But what you're going to be best doing is either using a .convertri subdomain, or I will send you a how-to on how to add how to basically add your domain inside Convertri and put your pages on it without having to move your domain over to us. So it's entirely possible, but it can feel really daunting. So yeah, email me, because I don't have your email address based on the webinar, and I will send you over all the options for that so you can find the one that suits you best. So we've got a question from Larry about rotating an image, and this is where I start my feature request spiel again. So we don't have an easy way to rotate or flip an image. Once it's on the page, you can move it around and resize it, but you can't flip it or rotate it. I will note that someone on the webinar asked for it. Yes, you've said that you will email me. Great, cool. I'll make a note that someone on the webinar asked for it, and we have been asked for it before. I believe there is a reason that our developers aren't doing it. I think it's something to do with once you add something to the page, it's how much power we have over an image, right? But I will definitely submit this, and if you see it, keep an eye out on the feature requests, because you're not the first person, and if you're not the first person, you'll either find that we don't build it because it's impossible, or that we do build it, Larry. But I will definitely make a note for you. We have a list of all of our feature requests, and then we pick our most popular ones. So the more people I note down, the more likely it is to get built. So thank you, because Convertri only gets better because of people like Larry who ask me for things. So Vanessa has asked, is there an option for someone to create our funnel for us? So at Convertri, we're pretty great, but we actually don't have any designers that we have to build for you. We have templates of funnels, and we have pre-made pages like I've shown you. But if you were looking for a designer, these are available. And again, this would be, I'll see if I can find the Facebook group for you. So This is the Convertri Clubhouse. And if you post in here, Vanessa, and say, hey, I'm looking for a designer, you can either say like, has anyone got any recommendations? Or the designers themselves tend to hang out in this group, and then they'll jump on it. So there's lots of people who know a lot about Convertri who you can get to design your pages for you, but it's not a direct service with us. So yeah, just put a little post in here and say, hey, apparently designers are in here, and trust me, they'll pop up because they want to design your pages, right? So I think that's you right there asking to join, and I've got the notification, everything. So I'll let you in a second and you can ask your question, Vanessa. Cool. So has anyone else, you're very welcome. Has anyone else got any questions before I end today's webinar? Just while I wait, I just want to say that thank you again, guys. You've been a really friendly, chatty bunch. It's really lovely to jump on and talk to some customers. And like I said, I'm working supportconvertri.com. So if 20 minutes after this you think, oh, there was that question I really want answered and I didn't answer and now I feel stupid, just email us. Support isn't for just when something breaks. It's for when you have a question or you need a hand. But the best place to look for advice is this help.convertri.com, which I will post in the chat now. This is the best place because we have made a ton of help videos, and I mean a ton, and we keep adding them every week, of all things Convertri. So your one-stop shop is going to be here, and if you can't find it, just shoot us an email and we'll walk you through it. So never feel alone. We'll always answer all of your questions. Cool. Well, it's actually looking like I got through all of you guys' questions today. So I will be ending the webinar, but it was really great to talk to everyone, and hopefully I will see you guys in the Facebook group, or I will see you on the emails, or maybe I won't because you'll be just so good at Convertri that I don't even see you. So thank you for your thank yous as well, because I've got some thank you messages coming in. You are very welcome, guys. And yeah, hopefully I will see some of you guys around in the community.